to So sorry, everybody. Do you hear me?
Yes.
Okay.
Again, yes.
Okay. So I start from the beginning, and I don't know what the problems are today. So sorry for that. Welcome to our demo session regarding data validation. Today, I present you the general process of how to validate data in the corporate data lake via the CDL apps. There's a specific CDL app that you can use to validate business partner data. For this, you need to know how to map data or your data models to the CDL data model and how to do basic enrichments. The result of these apps, or this app, is a CDL validation report. I want to shortly introduce you what is there, and how you can use it. And also, there's a specific business rules management approach behind the corporate data lake. And I will shortly introduce how we manage business rules, how we manage also reference data in the corporate data lake. There's also a specific demo session regarding metadata management in the corporate data lake. Therefore, this will be more or less a short introduction, but it's crucial to understand that you get more information regarding the business rules and that you know how to get the documentation of them and so on. And finally, I'll present you our development roadmap, what we have planned for the upcoming months to improve the data validation app and the functionalities and features offered by this app. This is reflected in the agenda of today. First of all, I give a short introduction of the corporate data lake, as there was already a lot of introduction to the corporate data lake in the recent demo sessions. I'll make it very short. If you want, you can have a look on the recent demo sessions. There was a more detailed description of what the corporate data lake does, how it works, and what the ideas are behind. And then I'll show you the data validation app itself, as well as the business rules management approach. And finally, there will be the outlook, what we have planned for development in the upcoming months. So, the corporate data lake in general tackles typical problems companies have regarding business partner management. It's about improving the data management processes, find ways to improve the efficiency, the performance of these processes, reduce data defects, and deal with more and more data. Moreover, there are a lot of more advanced fraud attacks, and the corporate data lake wants to warn companies regarding these fraud attacks. And finally, there are also a lot of compliance regulations that companies have to deal with. And also here, the corporate data lake wants to support companies. And the overall idea is that we support this, the corporate data lake supports this by sharing data between companies regarding business partners, regarding fraud attacks, as well as regarding certificates and blacklists that are relevant for compliance issues. Short overview on what the corporate data leak does or how it operates. There's the CDQ AG. This is my company I work for, and the CDQ runs the corporate data leak. This means that we have a separate team in the corporate data leak. It's me and some other colleagues, and we develop the services. We ensure that the collaboration processes work, and we manage these apps. We manage the community and so on. And there's the community of companies that write data, give data to the corporate data leak, and that get data back, such as business partner data, such as fraud attacks, infos about fraud attacks, infos about blacklisted business partners, and also infos regarding metadata. And in this context, we have built up a broad portfolio of services. The main pillar of the corporate data leak is, of course, the collaboration. This means that companies share data with each other, and due to a given overlap between the companies that have the same data, there are efficiency and data quality improvements. But however, in order to make this collaboration run, there are several specific services required, such as address cleansing or duplicate matching, or data quality management, which is more or less what I present today, how we manage data validation rules in the corporate data leak. And because they are not only usable in the collaboration itself, but they are also usable as single services, so you can just use the duplicate matching or the data validation. We offer them also as single services, and today exactly I will present you the data validation app. And of course, this is related somehow to our metadata management tool, where we manage, in the end, all the business rules. So, the corporate data leak has built up a business rules book in our metadata management tool, which is more or less the outcome of a collaborative effort of all the companies that are part of the corporate data leak. All member companies give input regarding these business rules, and they also give input regarding reference data sources that we can use to validate data, to compare it with the given reference data. And business rules itself are implemented using some specific semantic technology. This is not a topic today, just to mention it. So important is to understand it's a global set of common rules which applies more or less to all companies, or at least to all companies that are members of the corporate data leak. The general process of the data validation workflow in the data validation app is that we first need, of course, to somehow map the data you have to the corporate data leak data model, because otherwise we can't find out what information is in what field. So this is the reason why you have to define a data model, or you have to prepare your data so that it already fits to the CDL data model. Then you can create a custom database where you submit data to the CDL cloud, and after this the data is available and you can use it in several apps, such as here in data validation app. Having this information in the custom database, or having uploaded your data, there are some possibilities to enrich this data, for example, regarding legal forms, or regarding country names, or also regarding a simple categorization of the business partners. And then having this, there are a lot of rules. Currently, it's about more than 200. In the upcoming release, there will be more than 300 rules that we have implemented. And these rules can then be validated using the CDL validation app. And having this result of the validation app, you can download and create a validation report. And Now I'd like to show you in a fast run how this validation works, because before we then go into more detail regarding all these separate steps and regarding more rules and different rules. So you see here the login screen of the Corporate Data Leak. I log in with my username, and here on the top we can browse to the different apps and to the apps that are used for importing data. This is the databases app. The databases app, there's a default mapping already defined. And what I want to do now is I want to validate a simple file with 24, 23 business partners with this information here. So we have something like a local name, we have a legal form, but only for one company defined. We have the country code, postcode, and street names. And you see here, it's already mapped to the corporate data leak data model. So it's these are exactly the attributes used by the corporate data leak. And this is the reason why you are able to just upload this file with the default data model. You have to give it a simple name. So I say it's demo1. I select this file here. And now it's imported, a database is created, and you see here there are 23 records available in this data set. And you can have a short look here to validate if the data is really was really uploaded. You see here the different data records that were uploaded. In order to now validate it, we go to the data validation app. There you see now the database that we just imported is available here. We select this. It's already analyzed then if there are former validation runs and from how many countries this data is. And in order to execute the validation, we just click here on Start Validation. And then it runs for a second or two through all the routes, and says then validation completed. And after having now validated this data, we see there were several warning defects, and an error defect, and now we can start the report creation. Therefore, we have this button here. The database is selected on the top, and I start the report creation, and now an Excel file is created, which we can download. So. And this is the resulting Excel. This is the Excel which provides us with the data defects that our data validation engine has found. We have a look here. We see, okay, here the name is missing. And when we have a look here on the right, there's a table with all the rules that were validated. And there we have one rule, business partner name missing. And this is assigned a 3, which means there was a data defect regarding this rule, and this is the reason why this field here is marked as red. And here on the right you have this for all of the business rules. For all of the business rules there is given if there was a data defect or not. And you see there are different numbers. 3 does always mean it's a critical error. So regarding the corporate data leak, data with critical errors is not imported into the CDL because we cannot manage it and we are not able to curate, for example, the addresses to a correct one. And on the right here, you see data quality status. This is exactly the maximum of all the violated rules for all these records. What you see here is that all the records are marked as invalid, or that marked, or better said, they are marked that there was a data defect found. This is the reason because all of these records are missing a legal form, and some of these have some specific data defects. When we look here on this data, there we have a postcode 47809 and Krefeld. And the Germans know Krefeld is not written with a V, but with an F. And this is the reason why there was the rule violated, inconsistency of postcode and locality. So this postcode does not fit to this name, and this is the reason why the rule is violated. On the other hand, there we have another postcode. It's just the 999. It's obviously not a valid postcode in Germany, and this is the reason why we have here two rules that are violated. One is the postcode invalid, and one is the postcode format invalid in Germany. Postcode format just checks whether there are all postcode values or whether it has exactly 5 digits for German postcode. And the postcode invalid looks in the reference data whether we find anywhere this postcode. So if obviously 999 is nowhere available in our reference data, and this is the reason why it's marked as a failure. There are further tabs in this Excel where you can have a deeper look in the data defect ratio. You see here, again, the rules that were violated. You see the number of defects, and you see the defect ratio, how many of the records have this defect. And finally, there's also here a small dashboard where you can scroll in if you want, and maybe if you see it better. The data defects are shown in this bar diagram, giving the same information more or less as we have here in the summary, or giving the same information that you already have here. Now, there are these rules, and of course they are just the name here on the top. But you have the possibility to just click here on one of the rules. I click now here on the inconsistency of postcode and locality. And then the corresponding page in the CDL metadata repository is loaded where this business rule is documented, where it is described, saying here that we check this data against our specific CDL managed reference data, which is a compiled and cleansed version of address data that we get, for example, or mainly from GeoNames, OpenStreetMaps, and several postcode files of local post companies that we consolidate. And also you get here a small example. And on the right, there's some info box which gives you information about the status, gives you information about when it was released, who has changed it and who has approved it, and also the country scope saying that this rule is valid for any country. In turn, however, a rule that checks the postcode format of Germany is of course only valid for Germany. And then you see also that this business rule is linked to specific attributes. So this rule checks obviously the postcode and the locality, and here we link directly to the data model attributes that are documented here in the corporate data leak. So going here to the postcode value, you get the information about the postcode value, and you get an overview on the business rules that apply to the postcode. Okay. This is a first fast overview on how to validate. You upload data, you go to the validation app, you execute the validation, and you can get then back a validation report, and from there you can go to our metadata repository where the information regarding the business rules is documented. Now, of course, it's often the case that you are not able to already map every field to the CDL data model already in the file, but usually you get more something from an SAP dump, for example, which looks like this here. You have a name 1, you have a supplier number, you have a country code, PSTL set for a postcode, and a street. And in this case, you have to do or create a data model mapping file. which was already described in the matching demo, but I'll shortly show you how this works. So when we go to the custom database app, we can upload a data model mapping. I give it a name. It's demo 1.2. I've prepared here one. I upload it. And now we can have a look here in what is really in there. So you see here on the top there are the CDL attributes. And here these are the attributes that are used in the Excel that you want to upload. So every column is more or less mapped to a CDL data model attribute in order that we know which rules to apply and what information is really in the field. So this is very simple mapping here. However, in future there will be also some app that allows you to do it via a visual editor. For the moment, you have to use this kind of configuration file. So now I have this data model mapping, and now I can upload the data that I just showed to you. So I give it again a name 1-2. I select the file here. This was the file with this SAP data model or some other data model. Again, it's uploaded, and you see here it's the same data, and it's mapped to the corporate data leak data model attributes. So in the previous validation report, you saw that often this legal form attribute was missing. So because it's not there, it was not in the source data. And we have the possibility here to do some basic enrichment. So we can select the database, and then we can enrich legal forms and country names or categories. The legal forms are passed from the business partner name and then added to the database that you have here. So when I select here, add legal forms and add country names and start the enrichment, then again it runs for a second. And we can go again into the database, and now you see the legal form is filled with values where we were able to identify the legal form. There are some data sets where there is no legal form, so we cannot find it, but where it is somehow mentioned in the name, we are able to identify it and add it here in the legal form column. And you saw also that I selected the country value here on the right. We identified from the country code that was given that this was Germany, and it was enriched to this database. And a very fast run again, go to the data validation app, selecting the file, we start the validation. And now all these errors that were found due to this missing legal form are now gone. So we start the report creation. You already see there are much less violations. And here you see the legal form missing is only valid, or was only missing for this demo record 2 and for this demo record 10. And there's some other issue with this legal form that was already given by the input file. I'll come to that in a second. Going back to the slides for a moment. You saw that there was some magic behind that we passed the legal forms and that we passed the countries, and we are also able to do some other things in this app or in the corporate data leak in general, and therefore we use this CDL managed reference data. We have, for example, reference data regarding administrative areas. You see here an example for California. It's an administrative area in the United States. It has an ISO country code and also some ANSI two-letter code, and we also map it to some external data sources like the geonames key. And this information is used during the validation if we want to validate, for example, an administrative area. But also, you saw that we enriched the legal forms and that we checked whether there is one available or whether not. And you will also see that we check whether it is a valid legal form. And what you see here, there's an overview page or our reference data regarding the country of Germany. And there we have all the legal forms that are valid or that are known to the corporate data leak for Germany as valid. Now you see things like Aktiengesellschaft or things like Gesellschaft mit beschränkter Haftung and so on. And based on this data, we enrich the data in using this small feature in the database app, and also this data is used during the validation. So everything that is not documented in the reference data in our metadata repository is a potential data defect. So when you have a data value, for example, if Gesellschaft mit beschränkter Haftung would be not available in the metadata repository for Germany, then we don't know it, and then it would be marked as a potential data defect. And what you have already seen is that all the business rules in the corporate data leak are documented in the metadata repository, and that there's some information regarding the governance, regarding the country scope, the criticality, and so on, and also that they are linked to all data model attributes that are available in the corporate data leak. And I've selected here the business rule legal form invalid. When we go back to our validation report, you saw that this legal form was identified as erroneous. When we go here to the right, we see that the rule legal form invalid was invoked. Now we can go here again to the page which describes the legal form and or which describes this business rule. And what this rule really does is it checks whether the legal form that was given to or that was given as an input does really match to a legal form that is a valid legal form in Germany. So it checks here this data model concept, legal form, against our reference data that we have. You see here, this is the data model attribute legal form in the corporate data leak, and here are all allowed values or defined types for this concept. And for example, Aktiengesellschaft is something which is valid in Austria, Germany, and Switzerland. When we go here to Germany, then you see this list that I just showed you in the slides. These are all legal forms for companies that are valid in Germany in the eyes of the corporate data leak. And as the legal form here, the limited liability partnership was not identified as a legal form that is in this list here. There was this data defect found by this rule. Okay, this is one of the things of the corporate data leak, and to understand how these, the metadata, the reference data that we manage, and the business rules play together. Of course, this was just a small subset of rules that I just showed to you. Now I want to show that we can also validate things like identifiers, such as tax numbers for different countries. And therefore, I have again prepared a file. Just open it here. It's the same data as before, but I've added here the European VAT number for Germany for these records. Here again, it's already mapped to the corporate data leak model. If you would like to use something different like SDZEG or SDZD1 and so on, which you get from your SAP, you have to do a separate data model mapping. I'll show you that also. So I upload this file, again with the default data model mapping, as it was already mapped to the corporate data leak data model. Give it a name, demo2, and I upload it here. Now it's loading, we have it. I just make again the enrichments so that we don't have all these legal form errors. Go to the data validation app, select this record, start again the validation. And now I can create the report. And again, you see the same errors as before, but also errors regarding this European value-added tax identifier. This one is invalid, this one is invalid, and also these ones and this one. And when we want to, now we can have a deeper look on what was the problem really with these identifiers. One is the identifier was unknown. This means we check against the European VIS service, and if it's not given back as a valid or known VAT number, then it's a data defect. And this is exactly the case for these three and also for all the others. These are all identifiers that were not found in this reference data set. However, there are other rules that applied. For example, regarding the format, this is obvious, so there are not enough digits so that it could be an invalid identifier, and also here there are only not all digits available. So these are these rules, and what you see here, I've added in this data set something additionally to show another rule. So there's Funktel GmbH, and here I have Funktel GmbH with a care-of name. And care-of names are not managed in the corporate data leak in the name field, but in a separate care-of field. And due to this, it was identified care-of information stands in the wrong data field, and therefore the rule care-of information misplaced. So this was applied. And another thing that I added here is, which is often the case by many companies, that the postbox information, Postfach in Germany, is placed into a wrong field, not in the correct PO box field in your systems. And here it was identified this is wrong. It shouldn't stand in the thoroughfare field, which is the street in the corporate data leak. And thus the rule post office box information misplaced. So this was again more rules regarding the European value added identifier for Germany, but it's not all of it. There are also identifiers in other countries. I have here another file where I added some more identifiers. You see here there are some additional data sets, a Brazil data set, a US data set, and two data sets from Switzerland. And also here I've already mapped the different identifiers to the corporate data leak data model. And here you see there are two values. The first record, Brazilian record, has this CNPJ, and the other one has this. And also here for Switzerland we have two different UIDs. So this is the case. If it's possible, you can map it here directly to the CDL data model. However, often you're not able to do this already, and better use a data model mapping. And normally your data looks like this here. So you have an SDCEG. There are all German tax number, VAT numbers from these data records, and there's a field SDCD1, and there's the information regarding the Brazilian CNPJ, and regarding Australian identifiers. I've also added here these ones, and information regarding Swiss identifiers, Swiss UIDs. So there's no mapping yet to the CDL data model, but we are able to map this alone by having this information that this is SDCD1 and that the data sets are located in a certain country. So in order to do this, we go to the database app, say here demo 3, select a data model mapping. This is the standard identifier mapping. And there you see that I've mapped the specific attributes like supplier number, name 1, legal form, country code to our CDL data fields. And additionally, I have here a default mapping, a default identifier mapping. And based on this default mapping, we select the information we have from the SAP standard fields like SDCG or SDCD1 and map it to the corporate data leak identifier values, identifier names. So I have selected here this data model mapping, and now I upload this file, give it again a name, demo3, upload the file, identifiers mapped non-CDL, and now you see here, when we browse through it, that on the right we have the different identifiers in the CDL naming. So they are available now for the validation. We know exactly this is in CNPJ in Brazil, and so we are able to do some validation regarding this data. So when I close it, I do again a small enrichment, adding the legal forms and adding the country names. Can have a look here if it has worked out. Yeah, there are the legal forms. Then the countries should be also there. Go to the data validation. I select this one here. Now you see there are data records from 5 different countries available. I start again the validation. And after having finished, I create another report. I download it. And you see here, this is the result that we get now. So there are some records that have no defects. There are again the records that have the same defects as before because I've changed nothing here. And you see additionally here the EU VAT ID, the CNPJ in Brazil, and the Swiss UID. And what we see here, for all of these identifiers, I added 2 different ones. One that is correct and one that is incorrect. And the incorrect one was always found as the incorrect one. And we have here several rules again that check this. We go here to the right, then we see that for this data record, it said there's an invalid checksum of the CNPJ in Brazil. So this is a Brazilian data set. This is the number, and obviously something is wrong with the checksum of this identifier. So this is what we do when we have no reference data source available. For most of the countries, there's some checksum algorithm that calculates check digits or sometimes also 2 or more check digits in order to validate whether identifier is a correct one. And as we have for Brazil, no reference data source, we calculate this checksum. Similar thing for Australia, and another one here for Switzerland. There we have a reference data source available. When we go here to the right, you see here rural national identifier invalid Switzerland. If you click here, you would see that there's a reference data source behind that validates this against the official source of the authorities. When we go now into this invalid checksum of CNPJ Brazil, we come back again to our CDL metadata repository. It describes what is rule does, so the last digits of these numbers are the check digit, and we calculate whether they fit. And you have also the possibility to browse to this number to get some additional information what it really is. So here's the definition of it. There's a technical key which is used in the corporate data leak, and what you see here also that we have here defined this SAP field mapping, so the SDCD1. And this is the information that is used to make this standard mapping to these identifiers. And again, you kick back to the rule also on this page. So this was an overview of the data validation app in general and the different rules that are available for validation, or better that rules that show that there's some how these rules apply and what is really checked here. And for a complete overview, there's the corporate data leak repository, and there is on the side here of the corporate data leak repository a link to the business rules. And there's the overview page regarding all the business rules that are available. So it starts from business partner name missing and the care of information displays, what I showed to you. And then there are a lot of different identifier formats that are checked for different countries, the identifier unknown for the different European countries. And when we go here to further results, we see there are much more business rules that check a lot of other different things, like here the postcode formats of different countries, like Andorra, Argentina, Australia, and so on. The rules that you already saw, the legal form invalid and legal form missing. So if you want to have an overview on which rules are checked in the corporate data leak, just go to this page and you get an overview on all the business rules that are currently released. Currently there are 224. As I said, there will be much more by the upcoming release in next week. So going back here to our slide deck, I'd like to give you some outlook to our planned features of the validation app. You saw how it works, that you can select databases, that you get some simple validation report, and that you also get a simple cloud data, data quality dashboard within this Excel. One of the major improvements that we want to make is that we offer this as a cloud data quality dashboard, so that within the CDL app you are able to browse through the violated rules by country, by the specific rules, by the criticality of them, by selecting only some of them and display it in different visualizations like bar charts or pie diagrams and so on. It is one of the major steps forward regarding this. And another one is that we want to enable to make this validation more customized. So here we have this global set of business rules, which is applied always in complete with regard to all the data. The first step is that you will be able by October to select the rules that you want to use for the validation. And in the second step, we want to offer companies that they can also provide their specific rules regarding data model concepts or attributes that are not CDL data attributes. For example, there could be rules regarding phone numbers or email addresses. These are no CDL standard fields currently, but regarding this customized business rules, it should be possible to also validate them using some custom or company-specific rules. And moreover, we want to extend this checksum validation for more countries. Currently, there are, I think it's 50 countries or so where we can do this and where we know the algorithms, and there are a few left where we know algorithms but where we have not implemented yet, like here for Colombia, Russia, Mexico, and Chile. This will be done in the near future. And another thing which was requested by the CDL community is that we provide fixed proposals for these text number data defects. And also, in the end, for other data attributes like postcodes, because we have this reference data and we could propose fixed proposals, and regarding text numbers, we have in the Corporate Data League a large set of valid and correct text numbers, and we want to offer them as fixed proposals when we identify that a text number or any other identifier is invalid, and we plan this to do by September. So then I'm finished with my demo session regarding data validation. I'll stop the recording now, and then